the gooks would infiltrate our area at night. They'd sneak in and bayonet you in your sleeping bag, and you couldn't get it open in time to defend yourself. So the rule was you didn't zip up your sleeping bag, which made staying warm a little more difficult. But anyway, we survived that. One day we were on a firefight, as I remember, after being there about 3 weeks, I guess it was. And we got back to our CP area a little bit late in the afternoon, almost at dark, after we had called for an airstrike, and because we were pinned down there for a while, and the airstrike, the Corsairs came in and dropped their napalm, and we got out of there okay, and after taking some gooks out. I was there about 4 weeks altogether. Yeah, and that's the lucky part, I guess. I mean, you know, a lot of the guys in the 1st Division had gone over in about, let me see, I think it was about August, maybe July even. And so from July or August, a lot of them had been there, you know, a year or more. So those are the real heroes, you know. I don't consider myself a hero. I was just a guy doing my job. And matter of fact, the real heroes didn't come home. Those are our real heroes, of course, that we have to thank for. Yeah. So I was lucky. Could have been much worse, but that's why I got the name Lucky, I guess. But I did spend enough time there to get the feel and the sting of combat. Anyway, back at the CP area, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but whatever it was, we had, it seemed like it was cocoa. And apparently the guys that had prepared the cocoa for us hadn't put any purification tablets in the water. And all of us came down with the GI, you know what, that night at 20 or 30 below. Not a fun thing to do when you have to, but when you gotta go. But so the next day, most of us reported into the Corpsman's area there, and for some pills to settle our stomachs down a little bit. And I took my shoes off, my boots off, and I said, hey, by the way, give me some Band-Aids because I've got some hellacious blisters on my toes and I need to Band-Aid those suckers up. And the corpsman looked at it and says, hey, that's frostbite. I says, what's frostbite? We'd never heard of frostbite. Being from San Diego, I'd never been, I was a beach bum, you know, coldest it ever got was probably 40 degrees, but certainly nothing colder than that around here. So turns out that I had frostbite of all my toes and my fingertips, and even my ears were frostbitten to a lesser degree. So the corpsman said, you're going down the hill, down to Wonsan to our temporary hospital there, and had the doctors look at this. And a number of guys were experiencing frostbite. The guys from the northern states, the colder states, were familiar with frostbite, so they knew how to protect their feet. One thing we didn't know, and I guess the Marines were unprepared, or top brass didn't know or didn't tell us about, is that at night you want to change your socks, because if your socks have any perspiration, it'll freeze. So you put on dry socks, and that helps prevent frostbite from occurring. So I was down at, actually it was the hospital was next to Wonsan. It was Ham Hung, as I recall. And a couple of days after I was there, we got the word, well, the Chinese army just entered the war. And they've cut off the whole 1st Division at the reservoir. They're encircled, they're trapped up there. After that day, I picked up the name Lucky. When I got back home, everybody heard about my situations, and I'll tell you this story a little later, but that's how I picked up the name Lucky. I guess you can figure out why. Anyway, that afternoon, once we heard the word about the Chinese coming in and cutting us off, they flew all the hospital patients to Japan for safe, to be a little safer there rather than being where we were. Well, I guess I'll go to that Japan next. I was in the hospital there about 2 weeks in Yokosuka, a naval hospital there. But getting back to the division, that's when I guess the Marines had their finest hour, at least up to that time, fighting their way out of the trap down to the ocean at Wonsan and Ham Hung, and where there was a naval amphibious craft to bring the Marines off the beach and to the bigger ships a little further out. We brought not only the Marines, 1st Division, but any refugees that wanted to join us that didn't feel safe there, and we brought those out too. So that's how the Marines got out of the one of the toughest scraps they'd ever been in. And as a matter of fact, I read that there was more medal citations awarded to the Marines during that campaign than any other campaign in the history of the Marine Corps. So I guess I'm proud to be part of that, I guess. Back in Japan then, the doctors came around and to the frostbite patients, and they said, well, we're not quite sure the severity of your frostbite. It's all related to time and temperature, and your ability to keep your feet warm. The feet were the biggest problem. The hands and the ears weren't a problem much at all. They were just had minor frostbite, but the feet were a problem. And they said that some of you are going to lose your toenails and your skin will turn black and peel off, and you'll have good skin underneath. Some of you won't. And the guys that won't will probably have their toes amputated. So anyway, we after we knew what we were up against, they said, you guys are going stateside now because this is going to take 2 or 3 months to recuperate from. So we flew from Japan to Hawaii. Well, that was cool, except I couldn't leave the hospital in Hawaii, which was sort of a double whammy. But I had a couple guys that could buy me a Hawaiian shirt, so at least I had some souvenir from Hawaii. And we were at Tripler Army Hospital there. Well, it turns out that the famous Colonel and General Chesty Puller, who's a very famous hero in the Marine Corps, came to visit us. He was in charge of the 7th at the reservoir, came to visit the Marines in the hospital, and he happened to come by and shake my hand. He said, hey, Marine, he says, you better get well soon because we need you back up there in front. And I guess he didn't realize that frostbite takes a little bit more than just a couple days to get over. But anyway, I did meet Chesty Puller. It was quite an honor to do that, of course. He's a hell of a guy, hell of a Marine, one to be proud of. After we were at Hawaii, we flew to Oakland, to Oak Knoll Naval Hospital, and spent a couple of weeks there. And then they said, hey, you guys, we're gonna, actually, I guess I took a train from Oakland to San Diego, and I was assigned to the San Diego Naval Hospital. I got into town Christmas Day. And MacArthur says, we're going to be home by Christmas. Well, I guess he was right, because I got home on Christmas Day. I was one of the few lucky ones to do that, of course. Well, I was in the San Diego Naval Hospital till March, sometime in the middle of March. And